Hi. Today we have a very interesting subject. We're going to talk about dating and heterosexual relationships in general. And our main point is this: what happened? Why are today's relationships so much more complicated than those of days gone by? Now, you know where I come from. If you don't, let me explain it to you. I'm coming from an old lady's point of view. The old lady under the tree, the old lady on the porch, the old grandmama who knows some stuff, made a lot of observation, had a lot of experience, a lot of observation, a lot of time to look and study the human being's way of living. Now that's where I'm coming from. I'm coming from that point. And I have some things I want to talk about. Now, what we do about it is another whole story. I think there's one main reason that complicated the relationships between men and women in romantic or lifetime relationships. And I think that thing is that the roles got mixed up. When women became what's called liberated, it changed the whole scheme of things. When women started working hard and strong and long, and it changed the dynamics and how people dealt with each other. Now I'm going to say this disclaimer right now because I already know some people are already probably disagreeing, and that's fine. That's fine, but please listen. I'm old fashioned because I'm a person like this. I feel like if something is not broken, don't fix it. Because when you fix something that's already fixed, you mess it up. And I think that's what happened. I think we all messed it up. In particular, maybe women. And I don't mean to be a pick me, guys. I'm on your side kind of person. But hey, they don't bear all the blame. They bear a certain amount. One of the things is that women, when they start working, especially married women, they begin to take on a role that cause them to confuse the issue on who is the leader and all that. And I do believe in leaders. I believe that in a relationship a man ought to lead. I really believe that a woman ought to be herself, be comfortable in herself, stand her ground, work where she want to work. I think she should take advantage of her skills and talents. So I'm not by any means saying someone should not work. I worked until I retired. But when you start taking on the roles of paying everything and being responsible for everything and doing all the planning and all that, it gets to be complicated because men get kind of lost in the sauce and don't really know what they're supposed to be doing sometimes. Now, another thing happened. And you wonder why. Why did women start paying for stuff? Why did women start saying things like, hey, I got it? What? Why? What happened? Somehow, some way down the line, women got desperate. All of a sudden, it's like just having a man in his life is just so important. And I'm speaking, to be very honest, from the black perspective, because I know all races and all ethnic groups may not have the same problems or the same situations that we have. So I'm really speaking honestly from my own community's perspective. Women lose some of that softness and that femininity when they're in charge and when they're working. Just imagine a woman works all day long and she comes home and now she's got to do whatever needs to be done at the house. So she's all worked up and she's angry and she's whatever. And that causes a rift between her and her man because a man wants the woman to be soft and sweet and welcoming when she gets home. My mom was a single woman and she worked. Back in the day when I came up, that's who worked basically, was single women. There were a few married women who worked, but most married women were at home with their children, and and the man went out and, as they say it, brought home the bacon. Nowadays, that's not the case, and it seems to be a problem sometimes that women make more money than men. With the insecure man, that's a problem. With a man who knows who he is, know who she is, knows how she feel about it, knows the whole situation, they can work together as a team. It doesn't matter who makes the most. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. And as long as they're in harmony, and as long as nobody's hurt in the situation, it's okay. So one of the reasons I think the change was made is because women started working harder and start getting those same responsibilities that used to be the responsibility of men. And I think desperation is another reason because there's a shortage. And here again, in our community, there's a reason for the shortage of men, other than less men were born. They're incarcerated more. Some of them are just not into women, which is fine. Some of them tend to prefer the other race. So those are groups that we've already lost. And so ours left are the men that don't want those things. And sometimes those men are not the kind of man you really would want, the kind you really would want, the kind that's over there married to somebody else. So, it's one of those things. It's desperation. It's working hard and being stressed out. And it's just and it's emotional. It's emotional. Sometimes we as women, and women used to didn't have this particular emotion. They didn't have to. A man is down and out, or down on his luck, or has a sob story, and we'll just take him up and just take care of him. And before you know it, we're miserable, and we're taking care of a man that we don't want to be taken care of, and we stuck. And he's stuck because he has nowhere to go because he's so used to leaning on the woman. That's one of the problems. As far as men are concerned, men I think need to be needed. Just listen, just reading and listening and watching people. And I'm a little biblically based because I do study the Bible also. I don't try to cram it down anybody's throat. But even there, especially there, we're told that the men should be the head. And I think head doesn't mean bossing anybody around or telling you what to do or making a slave out of a woman. I think head means that if something goes wrong, he tries to find a way to fix it. If the family is in financial problems, he'll find a way to make it right. I think that's his job to make it right. And then a woman can just back it up by doing what she does, being grateful for one thing. So if the man is already unmotivated, it's easy for him to fall into the trap of being taken care of by a woman. And I do say the trap because he can't be in his full potential. He can't be his best self if he's being supported and taken care of and bossed around by a woman. So that lack of motivation is one thing. And I think another thing is that so many black men have grown up in families where there is no role model on how a man's supposed to behave and how a man's supposed to treat his woman. And so they just flying by the seat of their pants. They're doing what's come easy. They get lazy because we make them lazy. I think some of those things have to do with it. Also, just not being relied on. And in both cases, both male and female, I think it's a lack of self-esteem. I think a woman is short on self-esteem when she finds herself taking care of a man beyond what she really feels like doing. I think a man is lacking in self-esteem when he allows her to do it. So we have those problems. And I'm sure that I was thinking about, in my case, for example, I live on a street that has a lot of single women and maybe one or two. I think only in my situation and one more where there is a married couple. So therefore, boys and girls have grown up where they haven't seen the harmony and the perspective of the man being first and the woman being not being first, but being the leader. Watching a man lead, watching a woman follow, watching not just follow, but also watching a woman match his energy and watch that feminine energy and masculine energy come together and create this beautiful bond. I think that's what we want to see. So the way I look at it is this. If a man calls you on the phone, let me give you a hypothetical situation, but not unrealistic. And you're a woman, and the man calls you on the phone, and he says, "Look, I'm not going to be able to pick you up. I thought I was going to be able to pick you up, but I'm not going to be able to pick you up." And you say, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I thought I was going to get my check today, but I didn't get it, and I don't have no gas, and I can't come over there because I don't have no gas." This is not funny. I don't even know why I laughed right then, but and you say, now to me, what you ought to say is, oh, okay. I think that's what you ought to say. You say, oh, really? Okay. Well, I'm gonna go take my clothes off and get that gas situation together. Call me back. That's what I think you ought to say. But nine times out, well, I'm not gonna say 9 times out of 10. Let's just say some of the time, a lot of the time these days. Back in the old days, a man never would have even told you that. I'm serious. He never would have told you that. Um, but he said, I don't have no gas. And you say, okay. But this is what women say now. I don't have the gas. That's okay. I got some money. I can get you some gas. You got enough to get over here? Now that's almost desperate. To me, now I don't know what she's feeling at the time or anything like that. She just want to be on that date real bad or what that's about. And then he comes over there with his little fourth tank of gas over there to pick you up. So I don't like that. And that's the old fashioned in me. What I think should have happened was, let's just say he didn't have any gas and he really didn't have all the money, didn't have any money, but he hasn't really been talking about it. And I think if he didn't have the gas, I think he should call and say this. Listen, sweetie, I really intended to pick you up, but something came up. And I'll make it up to you. And then he will make it up to her. And he does. That's the way I think a man handles it. Because anybody can be broke. I'm not mad with you for being broke. I'm just mad with you for begging while you're broke. I don't like that because that's begging. And that takes away your masculinity and it softens you. And I'm talking to my boys now. It softens you. And you don't want to be soft. She wants to be soft. Let's get this straight. She's soft, you tough. She's soft, you're tough. You take care of stuff, she lets you. How's that? I think that's the way it should be. And I'll tell you something else. Let me back up. Back up. I remember when they thought it was so cool and a new trend for a woman to get down on one knee and ask a man to marry her. I think that is the craziest thing. If you did it, please don't tell me in the comments, anything, because I'm sensitive. Just listen, listen. You have no business down on your knees asking anybody for anything, let alone asking a man to marry you. And then he's going to have to make a decision to tell you yes or no. I don't think women should ever put herself in that position. Ever. I think that I hate to hear women say this too. This is something I hate. This is new. This is new. This didn't happen way back. When they say, child, I'm looking for a good man. I'm looking for a good man. You are not supposed to be looking for anybody. You're not supposed to be looking for anybody. You're supposed to be so busy taking care of yourself. If you have children, taking care of your children. You're fixing your face, being cute, loving life. And you know what? They love that kind. That's the kind of draw. That's the kind of draw the men. The men who women so into herself. Not being mean to herself is just being good to herself, taking care of herself, enjoying what she does, going to work and paying her own bills. Fine. But she doesn't need to, when he shows up, don't say, nah, baby, I don't need your money because I pay my own bills. It's going to be very obvious to him that you paid your own bills. You got this cute little house. You wear these cute little clothes. All your little children look good. Everything is fine. Or you don't have any children and your dog looks good. He goes to the groomer. So he knows that you're taking care of yourself. You don't have to brag. I don't think men like that either. I wouldn't. Especially if it already looks like you're in better financial shape than he is. So, save the man a little bit of pride. You don't have to brag on yourself. Just act. You don't have to tell him anything. You don't have to tell him about your money and how much money you make and what all you buy and where all you go. Nobody wants to hear that. You can see that. Live that life. Live that good life to draw somebody. Because let me tell you something. Self-esteem is attractive. It's very attractive. It'll pull people, but everybody won't come to you. You look a certain kind of way, you're going to vet, just by the way you appear, you're going to vet a certain group of people. That's both men and women. You're going to vet some people. Some people not even going to come up to you and say anything to you. You know, that's one thing I'm excited about my husband. He stepped up to me big time and never left. I couldn't get rid of him and so happy that I couldn't. You talking about taking charge of a relationship. As bad as I seem, as bad as people see me sometimes, I know my role. I know my role. And I have no problem in being the soft one and saying, honey, I hear something. Can you go check that out in the middle of the night? What I look like jumping out the bed, checking out something. Those roles I'm talking about, the kind that they get up and go to the door and you feeling good because you know he going to handle this thing. That's what I like. It's that kind of role I'm talking about. So We're talking about self-esteem being the main thing on both ends. You got to feel good about yourself. The man feels good about himself when he can ride up, come to your door and put you in the car and go buy the dinner. And you never. Men like that kind of stuff. You can look in their face and tell. They flex on that. They took care of that. No man, I bet you one thing, they won't go and tell another good man that, man, I went out and she paid for everything. Now, we'll do that. We will say things like that. We don't say she paid for everything because people know us a certain way. They understand that he must have paid for everything. But men not going to go out talking about, yes, she taking real good care of me. They may not know what to do about their situation, but they don't go around bragging on it either. Not one with some decency. So I'm sure that you can think of some other ways, roles that changed. But what I liked about the old days is this. It was understood who was to approach whom. It was understood. It was understood who was going to buy the meal. It was understood on who's going to go out and work. And it was understood. Now it's complicated. It's complicated because for all the reasons I mentioned, the money we make, the desperation, the lack of the proper people being there for us and all that. So what do we do? What do we do? Now we've recognized all this. So what do we do? First of all, it depends on where you stand on the situation. Some of you may be fine just where you are. You might enjoy buying the gas and pumping it. You buy the gas, and he gets to the service station, he sits behind the thing, and you get out and pump it and pay. Some people might enjoy that. Not for me. Some people may enjoy going to work every day and coming home, and he's relaxed with his PlayStation like a good person. And I wouldn't like that. I don't think I would like that. I'm having a hard time now with my husband rocking after retirement, but I've gotten used to it, and I realize the man has paid his dues, and that's good. You know what? I'm going to stop right here. I could go on, and I probably will bring this subject up at another time. But I hope you've learned something here. I hope you've thought about some things. And by all means, subscribe if you haven't already to my channel. And invite your friends in. And like this video. And you take care of yourself. And I'll see you later.